The streets are talking. You are now listening to The Box Out, Tri-State area basketball talk at its best. And now your hosts, Kahlil Thomas and Jason Cordner. Let's get it.
From NJ to BK in the world, this is The Box Out here on the Just Hoop Talk YouTube channel. My name is Kahlil Thomas, rocking the Bel Air Academy Will Smith jersey tonight. And we got to start with the Nets, this is going to make sense in about a second. So you had the Nets up 2-0. They go to Milwaukee in probably one of the ugliest playoff games you will see probably since the 90s. Milwaukee fought for 85-83 win, 2 games to 1 lead for the Nets, and a little bit of confidence for the Milwaukee Bucks leading into game 4. Now, the problem here is this, and here's where the jersey kicks in. Do you guys remember an episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? And it was early seasons, I think it might have been season 1, where Will Smith was the star of the basketball team. Carlton was on the team. Team was not good. Got good when Will Smith got on the team. Last game of the season, I think it was for the championship or something like that. Will's killing it. Carlton decides to take the final shot over Will Smith and brick it. Might have been an air ball even. That was Bruce Brown last night. Bruce Brown pulled the Carlton Banks last night with that winning shot last night. I gotta say it right now as I bring in Jason Cordner. Jay, what's going on, man?
Not much. How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm comparing Bruce Brown's last second shot to when Carlton stole the ball from Will Smith in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Because there's no way. And listen, Bruce Brown played his ass off last night, and I will give him props. He was the X factor for the Nets last night. But there's no way that play was built for Bruce Brown to take that shot.
Absolutely not. It was definitely a Carlton moment. I hope he learns from it. And I think the Bucks are so fortunate. I told you I don't believe in them. And they escaped the sweep. I think the Nets are going to close this out in 5. But it took all of that for the Bucks to get a win, man. That was crazy.
Yeah, and it took the Nets essentially playing their worst game of the season by far to win that game. But it's a bigger point, and I think I'm going to talk about this after this video from Kendrick Perkins talking about the Bucks game last night and what the Bucks did to win the game 3 and make it a series once again. Here's Kendrick Perkins from Get Up this morning.
Well, they mixed it up, Granny. They got physical. They didn't come with that cute and sassy type mentality. They got it out the mud last night. They touched them up. They roughed it up. They made it a physical game. Look, you cannot afford to go into this game and try to get into a cute and sassy game with this Brooklyn Nets team. You're going to lose. But the Milwaukee Bucks, they came out with a different type of mindset. They hung their hats on the defensive end. They made the Nets uncomfortable, and they contested a lot of their shots. Look, they didn't hope that they missed. They made them miss. And this is how you got to beat the Nets. You got to grind it out. You got to get it out the mud, and the Milwaukee Bucks did just that.
So Kendrick Perkins was right. I feel like if you try to play finesse ball with Brooklyn, you're going to lose. You saw PJ Tucker get into it with Durant last night. You saw a lot more physical play. The Nets got frustrated. And listen, the Nets, in the words of Marcus Morris, they have some female tendencies sometimes. Just put it out there. So if you can get in their head and make the game not so much, finesse, but make it more physical, make it more mental, Milwaukee could win and still come back and win this series.
I understand that, but it's the Bucks, and I feel like the Nets have responded very well from after getting a Bucks kick in the game. They responded well in Boston. I think they're going to respond well here again. There's no way KD, Kyrie have an off night. I think there's no way Joe Harris have that kind of night again. I think he's going to knock down a couple of shots, and I think Brown's his play is going to get better. I just think overall the Nets are going to respond. They're going to come out with a haymaker. They're not going to make sure the first quarter is not 31-11 again. They're going to come out being aggressive and try to get Giannis and Lopez in foul trouble. And what's up with Giannis and all his threes? At some point, I feel like if Budenholzer loses his job, it's because he didn't tell his star player, stop shooting threes, man.
Mm-hmm. Well, you talk about the shooting night they had last night, the Nets, 36% total, 25% from three-point land. Joe Harris, 1 of 11 from the field. Blake, only 2 for 5. Bruce Brown, 8 of 17, probably the unsung hero. 9 of 22 from Irving. 1 of 5 from Mike James, who kind of goes out for business for himself a lot. The biggest thing is not so much Giannis's threes, and I think I tweeted this out on our Twitter feed. His free throw shooting is atrocious. Like, to be so good.
Which part? The one he can't hit, or the one that it takes him more than 10 seconds? Like, it's the whole system is bad.
Well, Mark Jackson said he might need to, like, it might have been him or Van Gundy. I can't remember who. He needs to change his whole routine. He needs to kind of like this whole, 5-6 bounces, couple hips, You got to speed that up, because I think what's happening is, and they made a point, he's in his head now. So whenever he goes to foul line, he's taking that time to kind of go through his process, and he's in his own head with the free throws. And last night, I'm looking for right now, he was 4 of 9 from the line, which I think might be like, it's like, almost like 8 for 19 or something like that in the series. Something really bad. But I feel like, and free throws aren't going to win you a series, but when your star player is hitting less than 50% of their free throws, you have a serious issue right there.
Yeah.
Long term.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't think the series has any chance, the Bucks tying this up, making this like, oh, this is do or die, best of 3?
No, only because I know the Nets are going to come out pissed off. They got punked on national television, and I think KD and Kyrie is going to respond very well.
All right, so that's going to be I don't know. There's no way the Nets are going to shoot that badly again.
Yeah.
Just to see, like, it was 86-83 is like 83 points, even without James Harden. 83 points is insane. But I also feel like, too, Steve Nash shrunk that bench down. And we talked about this with Derrick Rose in the first round with the Knicks. Last night, Durant played almost 43 minutes. Kyrie played about almost 45 minutes. Joe Harris about 37 minutes. Blake, 30 minutes. Bruce Brown, 37 minutes. Are we getting to that stage where Durant hasn't played as many minutes all year? Right. Kyrie definitely hasn't. Could we be getting to that point where he's wearing these two out, especially without Harden on the floor?
I don't want to say not yet, but I think because of that deficit they were in yesterday and how they had to climb out of that, and they really exuded a lot of energy, I think it makes sense why they played hard. It was a close game. It was a physical game. I think he might need to open up the bench a little bit. Like, why is DeAndre not playing here? I mean, you need all the size you can get. I feel like he definitely needs to open up the bench a little bit. But I definitely say Nash he's been pressing the right button so far in the first 2 rounds. So we'll see.
Game 4 is on Sunday at 3 p.m. on ABC. So that's Game 4, pivotal Game 4 in that series. The other series in the East is Hawks-Sixers. And I will say this. I really do feel like the Sixers did not take the Hawks seriously in Game 1. I know Embiid was hurting. He killed in Game 2, but I think Game 1 he was still not feeling it. But do you feel like the Sixers might have not taken them seriously in Game 1, and that's how the Hawks were able to steal home court in Game 1?
I think so. And I think they didn't respect the shooters of the Hawks. They thought Trae Young was just a little guy that, we got the size to push him around, and that was not the case. And now they're scrambling a little bit. I think, if Simmons is going to be the primary defender on him, then they could probably wrap the series up in 5. If somehow Simmons can't contain Trae, this could be a long series that people didn't expect.
Right now, you have Sixers up by 8, 24-16. That game's on ESPN right now. 24-16 right now. Sixers on top. I want to go back to Game 2 because I do feel like you said, if Ben Simmons is that guy on Trae, I feel like Simmons plays good defense. He's obviously a really bigger, a lot taller defender than the other guys. But I think they're kind of going with what we kind of said with the Knicks. Let Trae do him. Mm-hmm. If Trae's going to go off, Trae's going to go off. Mm-hmm. But shut everybody else down. And I feel like game 2, they kind of figured that out. I think once they realized, oh shit, Atlanta's legit, we need to kind of shut this down. I feel like game 2, they had that game plan. And Doc Rivers is really good at adjustments. I know Tibbs, we had issues with his lack of adjustments. Doc Rivers is really good at adjusting. So I think game 2 and tonight, I think he's like, this is what we're going to do from now on. Follow what we're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, besides the Hawks, besides Capella in the paint, Embiid should be able to barbecue chicken that all day.
And can anyone stop Embiid? 40 points, 13 rebounds last game. Is there any player on the Hawks that can stop Joel Embiid right now?
Nope.
So do you see the series going more than 5?
I do. I think the Hawks is a frisky young team. I think definitely see this going 6.
But Sixers. So
I think
at
the
this
Sixers
point,
split here. I think they get 1 in Atlanta. They probably go back. Yeah, I think that's how it's going to probably play out. I think they'll get a split here in Atlanta and then win 5 and 6.
So right now, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot. Sixers Nets Eastern Conference Finals. That's what you're going to call.
Yep.
Okay. I'm sticking with Milwaukee. I'm sticking with my Milwaukee bet here. I just feel like they saw what worked last night. Do it again.
But can they do it 3 more times though?
Listen, I said 7. I think they can pull it out 3 more times. It won't be 3 straight games. It'll be a minute, but I think they can pull this out. It'll be interesting.
They definitely caught a break here with game 3 and 4 being 2 days apart. I don't know how they caught that break.
Well, because the NBA, I don't know what the hell they're doing with the schedules or all this other. I don't know. If I give a travel day, yes, 2 days off, but you're in Milwaukee.
Right.
Day off, play. They should be playing tomorrow, not Sunday. I don't understand. I know they're trying to stretch this out and make this a longer ordeal than what it should be, but it really makes no sense to have 2 days off right now.
Yeah.
I
agree.
Yeah. The series I want to talk about is Jazz Clippers. So Donovan Mitchell, first of all, I want to get your thoughts on this because Stephen A. Smith, and I have a clip for him I'm going to play in a bit, but Stephen A. Smith called Donovan Mitchell the best Jazz player in franchise history.
I'm going to need them to stop with these hot takes. I'm going to need them to stop, especially when that arena, in front of that arena, sits 2 statues. Because I couldn't even tell you who's the greatest Jazz player of all time. I'm just going to give you the pick and roll, and I'm going to say both of them are the greatest Jazz players of all time. But there's no way. Mitchell's good. He's very Dwayne Wayne-ish. But he ain't Stockton or Malone. Cut it out. Cut it out, Stephen A. You know better.
Pete Maravich.
Okay. All right. That's what we doing.
So Clippers down 2-0 after last night's loss. Donovan Mitchell, 37 points. Rudy Gobert, 13 points, 20 rebounds. Balanced scoring around the entire team of Utah. The Clippers had lost. What are your thoughts on this? Because the Clippers, listen, they were down 2-0 against Dallas, so we can't count them out. But Utah's not Dallas.
Yeah.
Can LA pull this out?
I don't think so. And it goes to show you, especially you and me, we don't see much of the Utah Jazz. And I'm enjoying what I'm seeing here. I'm like, holy crap, Donovan Mitchell's a bona fide superstar, and their roster is loaded with shooters, and then they got a great anchor in the middle. I mean, and they're doing this all without Conley. That's the most fascinating thing about it. Mm-hmm. But I think the Clippers are toast. I don't know how the Clippers escape Dallas, but I think this series is over in 5. Yeah,
I just don't. I mean, you have. I mean, Kawhi's getting his points.
He could only do but so much.
Yeah, 21 points last night. Paul George 27 points, but it was like it was a 27 and 10 that I really didn't give a shit about.
Yeah,
it was like, okay, great, 27. Okay, cool. You don't feel anything from the Clippers. I feel like they had game 7 against Dallas. I think that might have sucked whatever they had left out. But you just don't feel it. And I want to play what Stephen A. said today about the Clippers. And if they lose to the Jazz, what should happen? Here's Stephen A. Smith.
If you're Steve Ballmer, the owner for the billionaire owner, multi-billionaire owner for the Los Angeles Clippers, building a new arena in Inglewood and all of this other stuff. If Donovan Mitchell takes your Clippers out, guess what, Max? Let Kawhi go. Let him walk. Let him exercise his option and go elsewhere. Because now you're talking about your best chances with LeBron James home. You're talking about this is arguably the Clippers' best chance to win the chip. If last year wasn't, certainly this year was.
Yeah.
And if you don't get it done now you're talking about retooling, rebuilding, trying to establish a culture. You can't establish, as big time as Kawhi Leonard is, you can't establish a culture with a dude that you've got to exercise load management with
right,
so excessively. So I'm just saying.
Can they win?
I'm just saying, the magnitude of what Donovan Mitchell is doing to these Clippers cannot go unnoticed.
So, listen, it pains me to say this. I almost have to agree with Stephen A here. I feel like the Lakers are home. You moved heaven and earth to miss the Lakers completely until the Western Conference Finals. They're gone. This is your shot. You beat the Mavericks. You came back. You won Game 7. You come to play Utah, lay 2 straight eggs. You're coming back home. If this doesn't work, and you kind of traded your future away, but if this don't work, you might have to think, you know what? We might have to blow this up. Or not completely blow it up, but at least blow up some parts of the team. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely would have to blow up some parts, but Kawhi is that dude. I don't understand him. I think he might be just happy and content of staying in LA. I think he might not exercise that option. I think he might stay put, and then that becomes a problem where it's like, what do you do with Paul George? What's his trade value right now? See, that's where I'm really concerned with the Clippers. I feel like, and the Clippers, mostly the Clippers. I was thinking about Houston, but the Clippers gave up so much of their future. So when they do open that new arena in Inglewood, it's gonna be a shitty team that's opening up.
Mm-hmm. It's funny you mentioned Paul George, and like every time I see him play, I'm like playoff P, and the P in my head is not for Paul. It's playoff something else. Like, I'm not gonna say it on because I think my mom is listening, but there's nothing there. We talk about trade value. You know what you're getting in the regular season, but you also know what you're getting in the postseason. Mm-hmm. He's gonna get his. He's gonna worry about his. But when the chips are down, Kawhi takes that shot. Whether he airballs it or not, he'll take that shot. Paul George has never taken that shot, and I feel like for what he thinks he is, for what he wants, and for what a team believes he is, I feel like it's completely different wavelengths completely. I feel like you get him, he's Robin. He's never going to be a Batman. He might even be Alfred at this point.
Oh, man.
I'm just saying.
But what's crazy, though, is the Clippers have 2 alleged elite defenders, wing defenders. You think somebody would try to lock up Donovan Mitchell, but...
Listen, but I think the bigger question is, we talk about free agency. We'll talk about that a little bit later. If Utah doesn't pull this out, let's say Utah gets to the Western Conference Finals and falls. We heard rumblings after Game 1 of the last series that he wasn't happy. We don't know how he feels now. Could we be talking about a Dame Lillard situation where he's like, I got to get out of here, even though they signed an extension? Maybe he's not happy because I feel like with Utah, I feel like Karl Malone, John Stockton, not so much Malone, they were happy in Utah. Is Spider Mitchell really, really happy in Utah?
I think, you know what? The best way to sum this up is, had management not changed, ownership not changed, maybe. I think, from what I'm seeing with the new ownership group, they seem progressive. You got Dwayne Wade. He has Dwayne Wade in his ear, like, at every game. It's amazing. So I think the direction of the organization is going to be around Mitchell, and I think they're going to sell him on that, and I think he's going to want to be the face. I think the young guys, they definitely want to be on their teams, and they want to be the face of their franchises, so I think he'll probably stay put. And they got a nice young core. They got a nice core that grew up together, played together for a couple of years, and now they're ready to break that ceiling. I do think they'll probably get to the Western Conference Finals. I will give them the edge over the winner of the Suns and Denver series, only because I think the size, they would match up pretty well in terms of both teams. But I think Utah's on the come up. And I think they would have been a handful for the Lakers had the Lakers sort of been in the conference finals anyway.
So Joe Keaton chime in, and Wade's going to feel comfortable. What you just said, which is true. I actually forgot Dwayne Wade bought into the team. So I feel like that's an X factor for Mitchell staying put. So that's a good point. The other series, the last one in the West, as I bring up the banner here, Suns Nuggets. This is over. Let's put it out there now.
Not over yet. But it's kind of like what happened with the Nets and the Bucks. The Nuggets they're gonna have to muck it up and try to squeak out a win here to extend the series. But I don't know if Denver could win in Phoenix. Kind of like Milwaukee. I don't know if they can win in Brooklyn. So I think this might be one of those home court, whole serve.
Well, and I think I mentioned this last series and how, you definitely saw spurts where Denver struggled without Jamal Murray, without Will Barton, and it's coming home to roost in this series. Jokic is doing everything he can to hold it down. Is not enough. And I feel like the Suns know that, and the Suns understand that. And I feel like the Suns are getting good performances. Chris Paul playing like Chris Paul. Devin Booker still playing like Devin Booker. DeAndre Ayton, for me personally, I'm thinking next year for fantasy basketball, he's still I got to think of second, third round pickup because I feel like if he's playing this well now, and I think he's starting to realize it in the playoffs, next regular season, he's a beast.
He's going to be a monster, yep.
I feel like the Suns, you talk about the Jazz on the come up, I feel like the Suns are there. And I feel like a Suns-Jazz Western Conference final, probably not what the NBA wants, but it'll be interesting because the matchups, everything just kind of floats well, especially if the Jazz have Connolly. But the Suns look really, really good right now. And Denver they look shorthanded.
It's crazy how, we saw the bubble and how we were like, damn, the Suns are really progressing pretty well. Add a veteran point guard like Chris Paul, and now it's like they're knocking at the door to the NBA Finals. It's so scary what could happen in 1 year.
And no offense to Ricky Rubio, who was their point guard last year, but Ricky Rubio's not Chris Paul.
No.
So, it really shows you how important having a legitimate point guard running the team is. It's one thing as Knicks fans, we know. We've struggled with that. We have not found that point guard, since
we drafted Mark Jackson?
Yeah, I think Mark Jackson in the 80s. That might have been the last real point guard we had. I feel like it's tough to find that point guard, whether it be through the draft or whether we do free agency. The Suns got it. Now, the question becomes, and this is what Bill Simmons and Ryan Russillo mentioned on the Bill Simmons podcast. I know we're looking ahead. We still got games to play. What happens with Chris Paul in the offseason? Because if the Suns are this good now, let's say they progress and they get to the conference finals, get to the NBA finals, whatever happens. Does Phoenix keep him? Because he's 35, 36, or 37, something like that. He's going to want multi-years. He's not going to want a year contract. Do you just give him whatever he wants, no matter what it costs?
It's funny you say that because I think it's going to be a bidding war between Phoenix and the Knicks. And we know Leon Rose, that was his agent. Mm-hmm. That was his guy. Looking at this, I don't know why I'm thinking about Jeremy Lin, but I'm thinking about that.
Oh God,
I'm thinking about that situation where, in terms of like, he gave a spark to the Knicks, but they were like, no, long term, we're not going to pay you that. And I feel like the Suns, they have a young nucleus. I think they got Chris Paul here this year to show these guys how to win and how to play, and they're going to move off him. And I think they're going to move off him and save that money and go get themselves another young piece that they could probably try to compete for a championship with. So I don't see the Suns giving him the money that he wants. I think the Knicks will overpay, but I don't think the Suns are going to pay him.
I think that's the issue. I think the Knicks are going to get him, but they're going to overpay and bid against themselves and then be stuck, which is a Knick thing to do. Let's be honest. When we talk about the Nuggets MVP, Nikola Jokic, like we said he was the MVP. That's the guy. Embiid second, Curry third, which I think was the right order. I think Jokic deserved the MVP. Did you see the breakdown of the voting?
I saw that the Derrick Rose got a point. He got a point. He got one.
So I'm looking at it right now, and I got to bring this up. So Jokic got 91 first place votes.
Okay.
Embiid got 1. Curry got 5.
Yeah.
Giannis got 1. Chris Paul got 2. Not a problem with that. How the fuck did Derrick Rose get MVP vote? Like who did that?
Tibbs.
Like what? Like are we like it's mind-boggling. And I go back to the Hall of Fame vote with Jeter. I hate the Yankees. Mm-hmm. Jeter was a unanimous Hall of Famer. and you had one scumbag douchebag not make it unanimous. This guy who voted for Derrick Rose, I feel like it was like Stephen Bondi from the New York Daily News, just like playing around like, I don't really care. He's going to win anyway. Let's give it to Rose. The voting in these MVPs and Hall of Fame voting, this needs to stop because it's insanity right now. Like, I'm trying to look. LeBron, total points, total votes. LeBron, Kawhi, Harden, and you can tell that the whole Harden beginning of the season kind of killed him. Ben Simmons, Russell Westbrook got 5 votes. Rudy Gobert got 6 votes. Like, wow. Okay. Derrick Rose just threw me off completely. It messed the whole night up, actually, when I saw that. Game 3 is tonight between Phoenix and Denver. That is at 10 p.m. That's on ESPN as well. So I got to talk about Tibbs winning Coach of the Year.
I was shocked.
Same here. I thought it was going to Monty Williams for Phoenix for sure. I thought it was his. What do you think was the edge here? Because I didn't think it was that close. I thought Monty Williams really was going to get it. What do you think was the edge that gave Tibbs that momentum to win it?
I think it's what we saw in the playoffs. He had the least to work with, and he somehow molded them to a 20-plus win improvement, plus the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference. I think that's what it was. I think it was I think it was what he worked with. I think the Randall developed into an all-star, and then just everyone else having a good year and the low expectations, and he exceeded that. I think that's what gave him the edge. As to with the Suns, we saw the glimpse in the bubble. We was like, wow, if they would have gotten, who knows what they could have been. And they rode that, plus the addition of Chris Paul, which is like another head coach on the floor. I get it. I get why Tibbs got it.
So in the grand scheme of things, you think the bubble might have hurt Monty Williams' chances to win MVP? I mean, win Coach of the Year.
Actually, I think Chris Paul hurt his chances. Because we
saw
Chris Paul do this last year with OKC. So I think that hurt his chances.
So shouldn't Chris Paul have gotten more first place votes if that was the case?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, if you was to ask me the top order for MVP, Chris Paul's right there under Steph Curry. He's number 4 for me.
Yeah, and we had a whole topic about this early in the season. I really do feel like Chris Paul is the most underrated player in the league by far. I feel like he just goes to these reclamation projects. Like OKC was trying to tank last year, and they made the playoffs.
He's like, no, you're not tanking on my watch.
Exactly.
Kind of like what Tim said. No, I'm not here for a rebuild. I'm here to do something else. So I get it.
Well, speaking of that, and I'm glad you brought that up. On the morning show, Keyshawn, Jay Will, and Zubin, even though Zubin hasn't been there like months. Jay Williams, which we'll get to too, because there's a whole lot to say about Jay Williams tonight.
He had a busy week.
Oh, man. He made a point about the Knicks that I'm scared about, and I want to get your thoughts when we come back from the video. Here's what Jay Williams had to say about the Knicks and what their offseason plan should look like.
I think that's where it's interesting if you're the Knicks. Like, this is not a rebuild. This is time to go all in. And when you start looking at players, obviously you have to handle the Julius Randle situation. You said this, Alan, right? You're going to make him play another year. Prove that you are a max player, essentially, correct?
I think is
that the direction that you would go?
I would, yeah, and I wouldn't do it as, hey, you got to prove it again. I would just say it as this makes sense for everybody. It saves us money, and for you get more money off of that year than an extension.
But I'm his agent. I'm smarter
team
than
option?
That.
That's team option on
I know that
team
trick.
option.
Team option.
Yeah,
so I take
it was
you
a
take
2+.
Okay, 2+ team option. You take that.
I'm his agent. I'm smarter than that. I know that trick.
But it's a team option. You don't have.
I understand that, but
you don't have an option.
It's not up to you.
Yes.
But we want to get a long-term deal done.
We will.
Whether it's with you or somebody else.
But that you can't anyway. I'm picking up the options.
Yeah,
You're with me. We can discuss the extension during the season.
But now you make me feel like as a player, I'm not worthy of an extension. You got to factor that into feelings of a player that feels like he done a lot to get you to the point that he got you to this year. You know, guys do have feelings, man.
Look, I think you have to make sure that Julius understands you are part of our long-term solution. You are one of our pillars. But in order for us to get you next level, right, and we've seen how difficult things were for you in your game. Look, one of the things that Bob Myers talks about is also within the playoffs, that gives up some of your deficiencies too, right? It puts it on blast.
Show.
And I think that showed for Julius Randle a little bit. ISO possessions, hard left a lot, couldn't really finish a lot of times, going right. So, hey, we need you to help us be in a position to land a guy like a Kawhi Leonard. Or if he's not happy if it doesn't pan out with the Clippers, land a guy like Damian Lillard. If it doesn't pan out, they get knocked out by Denver. Land a superstar type player that we can have that can come here and you can be additive with, right? And build a supporting cast around them. Those are the type of questions you have to.
So that was Jay Williams. The whole go for it thing, we've been burned. I don't know if you listened to that Shattered audio documentary from Chuck D and the Atlantic about how we went in twice for LeBron and then for Durant and Kyrie, and we lost both times. Listening to that this week and then hearing that scared the shit out of me that we're going to get burned again.
I'm here to give hope because I don't think we'll get burned again. I think going into LeBron, we were in a playoff team. Going into KD and Kyrie, we were in a playoff team. I think the job that the management's doing, plus factoring Tibbs, he's come around. He's kind of like Tom Coughlin. He's toned down a little bit, just a little bit. And I think the atmosphere of the Garden, I think people saw that. LeBron tweeted it. I think players going to want to come here. And I do agree with Jay. It is time to go in. I think the rebuild ended this season. So now you have to build off the success. I think, hey, Randall, hey, listen, in the words of MVP, it's just business, man. You didn't perform in the playoffs. So the leverage is gone. The leverage is gone. It's out of your court. We hold the leverage. We got the last year your option. You're going to play it out. And it saves us a little money on the back end so we get somebody here. And then, hey, you have a good productive year again. They'll definitely get you a long-term deal, or they'll trade you, and someone else will get you a long-term deal. So I think the Knicks are in a good spot right now. And we got draft picks. Again, any disgruntled player that's unhappy with your organization, you want to wear a little blue and orange in your life, switch it up a little bit, come to the Garden.
Well, here's my issue with that. And I feel like the free agency field this year is not that strong. And my biggest fear going all in is that we're going to go in just to go in and just get anything. Now, we have, like you said, we have the assets. We got the players. We got some players who can move. We got some draft picks. Dame Lillard, possibility. Not saying it's going to happen, but, there are rumors that the Knicks have been out there. You can bet your ass that they've been out there talking to teams like, okay, we heard so-and-so's not happy. If you want to make a trade. So we got that. But free agency freaks me out because I feel like besides Lonzo, there's really nothing else besides Chris Paul, which I foresee them overpaying completely. What else is out there for us for a need? Because we need a two guard, unless you move RJ to two guard. In that case, we need a three. There's so many spots where we kind of need some help. We don't have a ton of money. Like, I feel like this whole salary cap thing, we're not flush with cash like everyone thinks we are. I really don't think we have that much. They say 50. I think it's more like 30. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm almost overly cautious about the Knicks kind of going in and saying, okay, we're going to go all in and put some money on the table. Because they did this before. We lost out. And then we came back with like Reggie Bullock, Taj Gibson, Alec Burks, and insert other guys here.
I think, with going all in, you make smart choices, kind of like what you've been doing the last 2 years. Short contracts, stay with that formula. And to me, the Knicks' problem is probably going to be like, who are you going to resign? I mean, we both want Burke on a low contract, but is someone else out there going to jump the gun and want to overpay him? Probably a team looking for a shooter. So that's where the Knicks, to me, need to address who you want to bring back and then what position you want to improve. And I wouldn't mind having Lonzo here, and I wouldn't mind him with that young core that we have. And you keep developing that young core, and if you need to trade them to get a disgruntled superstar, then do it that way. But there's definitely a lot of disgruntled superstars around the league, and I definitely think the Knicks are a more desirable option now than they were at the beginning of last summer.
Yeah, I feel like, listen, the Garden is still the Mecca. It's still the Knicks. It's still tradition. So you're going to get players who are going to be like, you know what? It is the Garden. It's not the Garden like it was. If you haven't heard it, did you hear Shattered? Did you listen to that yet?
No, not yet.
Okay. When you have a chance, you got to listen to it. It's like 8 parts. I think each part's like 40, 45 minutes. And they go through from the end of the 90s dynasty to current time, and how the Knicks has just been a shit show for all this time. You have to listen to it because it'll get you in my mindset because you're very positive. It'll take you down to like where I'm at, where I'm like, oh yeah, we messed that up. Oh yeah, Dolan. Yeah, I've got to get the guy out. Yeah, they choked out Oakley. Yeah, all this stuff is coming back. And you're like, God, this team sucks. This organization's a shit show. What happened to us? We were so good. WNBA, Liberty start 5-1. They've lost their last 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
What is wrong with the New York Liberty right now?
I just think, I just think the size is catching up to them, and we didn't expect much going into the season, and they kind of started out hot, and now it's coming down. It's cooled off a bit, but I mean, the teams they lost to, I definitely thought that those teams are better. So it's still a growing pain. I expect things to get better for the rest of the season, but I just think the size, man. I think their forwards are just not as good as we thought they would be.
Yeah, Jonquel Jones from Connecticut, 31 points, 13 rebounds against that front line of the Liberty. She was a beast in that game last week. It was just like no one could stop her. She was just backing everybody down, just going right to the basket. There was no resistance at all from anyone inside. I hate to say that. I think Kylie Shook, draft pick from last year, first round draft pick, she may be out of her element, or she might be more of a bench player than a starter. I feel like Walt Hopkins is starting her a lot, but she may be a bench player and not really a starting forward in this league right now.
Yeah, she's not ready yet.
So I'm concerned because Sabrina Ionescu still does not look right. Something still seems off about her. They're saying an ankle. We know she was out. She missed pretty much the entire season last year because of an ankle injury. It's a young team. So with that said, expectations are low. Wouldn't this be the time that if she's really hurting, and they've had a few days off, but if she's still not right, is this the time to me to sit her on Sunday for that game against Phoenix?
I would. If things continue the way they are, yeah, I would sit her because she definitely doesn't look right. She's not looking for a shot. When she's in the game, she's very passive aggressive. So yeah, I would definitely play her with caution.
Yeah, and I feel like this is the time. It's early. You're 5-4. You still have a ton of the season left. I'm like, if she needs to rest for 2 games,
break coming up. Yeah, you got plenty of time.
If she needs to rest, I think you need to rest her up and get her ready for the stretch run and not wear her out completely now. They play Phoenix on Sunday night. Around the league, I think, and I feel it keeps kind of jumping between Connecticut and Seattle for the best team in the league. I watched Connecticut against the Liberty on Sunday, and I think Connecticut inside they might have the edge over Seattle, but then guard play, I think Seattle is Connecticut. So if you had to kind of pick, which team would you kind of put in that number 1 spot in the WNBA?
I'd probably still go with Seattle. But not by much.
Yeah, I'm of the mind where it's Seattle, obviously Seattle, Connecticut, top of the standings. Listen, I still got love for Vegas too. I feel like Vegas.
Oh yeah, when they get
they started slow. They started very, very slow, and I think they're trying to figure out the Asia Wilson, Liz Cambridge situation because Liz didn't play last year, and the lane was a little less clogged last year, so Asia Wilson had a lot of room.
Now.
Yeah, it's because you have 2 players that are very, very similar.
Yeah.
So Asia Wilson will back you down. Liz Cambridge will back you down. So it's kind of crowded, but I think Glenn Beers kind of figured out how to run that. I watched the Mystics the other night, and I know I keep bringing up the Mystics. I'm intrigued with that team because I really felt like Tina Charles would have made a really bigger difference. And you take out Tina Charles and insert her instead of Kylie Shook in the lineup for the Liberty. You're 7-2 right now. That's what I think. I feel like you need that. The team is still young. The Liberty team is young. You need a veteran presence.
Yeah. She probably didn't want to come back to a rebuilding process. So that's probably what happened. That's probably what scared a lot of the centers coming over here. And
I know they brought over like Sammy Whitcomb, who's playing really well, but I think Tina Charles for that front line was necessary because your front line is hella young.
And hella thin.
And you kind of see them kind of get taken advantage of right now. So right now, Storm number 1, Connecticut 2, Vegas 3, Mercury 4, Liberty's still holding on to that 5th spot in the league. The Sparks at 4-4, the Dream 4-5, Dallas 4-5, and the Mystics also 4-5, and then you have the Lynx, Sky, and the Fever rounding out the rest of the WNBA standings.
Sky is looking right now.
Yeah, you would think that the team really didn't change, and
It didn't change.
It didn't change, and you added Candace Parker, and you're playing the worst basketball you played probably all year in the last 2 weeks or so.
It's not always good to go back home.
No, ask Carmelo. Also, part of the Shattered documentary, so that's part of it too.
Oh, I think he might be coming back to the Knicks.
Oh, don't say that.
I think that's in the works.
Well, it's funny because I was thinking about that Shattered thing. They talked about Linsanity. There was a whole episode about Linsanity and how Linsanity was just like this bright flash, and that was it. And then the analytical hat goes on. Ionescu, if she doesn't perform, and I know she's hurt, I don't want to put this out there, and I know she's been hurt, but are we looking at a Lynn situation with Sabrina Ionescu? Because she came out the gate that second game in the Wubble last year, killed it, had 30 points, and then missed the rest of the season. She came out these first 2 games, killed it, and is now timid and not really playing well. Are we going to get to that point if she doesn't perform and get to that Oregon level? The reason she got drafted number 1 is it like, okay, maybe she's not as good as we thought she was.
I don't want to think that. I just think that she's probably still playing a little hurt. But I am, especially going to those Liberty games. And I was like, damn, this is not what I expected to see from her. I expected her to take over and want to be dominant, but I expected more like a Chris Paul-ish. But she's still a prodigy. I still have faith in her. So it's a tough break. She got injured first couple of games of her rookie year, and she doesn't look all that quite well yet or comfortable yet.
Yeah, and I feel like, like I said, if she's hurt, sit her down. Don't do this to her. Don't do this for the team. Like, just let them know. Right now, you have 1 game on right now. You have Seattle leading Atlanta 35-29. They're in the second quarter. That game is on CBS Sports Network, if you have that channel, because not a lot of people have CBS Sports Network. So 35-29, Seattle on top of Atlanta. Tonight, you have Dallas visiting the Phoenix Mercury. Next story I want to get to is we're going to go back to Jay Williams. And so Jay Williams apparently this week claimed that Kevin Durant got mad at him at a holiday party for a comparison he made to Giannis. I'm not going to pronounce his name. Still can't pronounce his name. About physical qualities, blah, blah, blah. And Durant pretty much said, don't effing compare me to Giannis. Durant comes out and says, this is a fucking lie. J.C. Williams could never, ever speak for me. And then Steven Jackson comes in off the top rope. And I got to find a tweet. Where's the tweet? Where is it? Jay Will, stop it, bruh. This ain't my guy. This ain't my guy. Not at all. Don't let ESPN gas you. I know how they move. That's why you don't see me up there no more. Big facts. I got receipts. And then when I say how players don't really fuck with Jay Will like that, and all this craziness. So I'm like, oh my God, I got to record this radio show that's on TV and hear what Jay Will got to say. And here's what Jay Will had to say about Kevin Durant and then Steven Jackson.
Couple things real quick. Number 1, I stand by my story. Number 2, I was probably wrong for sharing a personal story, but that's what we do. That's what we do here on our show. And it was meant as a compliment for Kevin Durant to show that there were levels to this and that he was actually right. There are different levels between KD and Giannis. I sat there yesterday. I'm not going to get into this whole spat back and forth on social media, tit for tat. I don't live my life that way. I rise above that. I don't attack people's character. Reached out to his team, talked to Rich Kleiman about it. Like, I got nothing but love for KD. I want them to win a championship. You guys have known I'm from Jersey. I've always been a Nets fan. I love how it translates to Brooklyn. And that's the end of that for me. Like, I said my piece. It's done. We're moving on to the next. Key and I talk about sports the way we do.
Yeah, but then you also, with the KD situation, You know the way I feel about KD. I think he the coldest thing since sliced bread.
Because he is, yeah.
And
We're on the same page with that.
That's what it is. But then sometimes in these situations, you get other people chiming in. And Stevie Jack, who was a friend of mine, also had stuff to say about the situation with you and KD, which I thought, I'm like, Jack kind of, yeah, I get it, but it had nothing to do with him.
It's obvious Jack don't rock with me. I don't care. I don't need to be liked by everybody. And Jack says certain things like, hey, we don't roll in the same circles. Well, I didn't roll in your circles, Jack. I'm cut differently than you are, Jack. And that's fine. You do your thing. I'm going to do my thing. But I know what rooms I roll in. I don't project it. I don't need to tell the world what rooms I roll in. If you want to rock out that way, if you want to do it ad for your show, then great. Congrats to you, Jack. Do your thing. I know Matt. Matt and I kick it. We talk here and there. Love what Matt and those guys do. But, don't try to attack my character. You don't know me, Jack. You don't spend any time with me or my family. You haven't called me. I reached out to you when all this stuff happened with George Floyd. You didn't reach back out to me. So you know what? Do you, Jack. Just keep me out of it. Don't insert yourself in a conversation between myself and somebody else to piggyback on that, because that's what it seemed like. That's what gets me angry about it. And if you want to have that, then we can have that, but you can keep yours over there, and I'm good over here.
All right, first of all, Jay Will's not about that life. I'm putting it out there right now. he should not be trying to go at Steven Jackson like that. Let's start there first. Secondly, the question becomes, was Jay Williams wrong in telling this story, whether it's true or not, on air about KD getting mad at him about Giannis in the comparison?
I'm a little torn because I feel like Jay said, he didn't mean it as an insult, but he meant it as a respect thing. But at the same time, it's insulting to somebody. And I'll say this: I think that did happen because KD is so quick to want to be like, he's like a fake tough guy. Like, why you in his head? He's like, damn, why are you saying that? Kind of like him getting caught with the burner phone. So his credibility is shot.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it did happen, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it is what it is. My problem is more about Steven Jackson coming at him, airing him out, talking about, this is why I don't mess with you, and this is why I don't mess with ESPN. And I think it kind of ticked Jay off just for the fact that, with the whole George Floyd situation, everyone knew that was George Floyd was Steven Jackson's brother. And I guess the fact that he didn't reach out back, he was like, all right, I'm definitely not effing with him. And then when someone you're not really effing with has a comment about you and where you work, it kind of, it's a sore spot. So I get it. I get it. But I definitely think it did happen. I definitely think Durant is a cold mother, what.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like, I do feel like they probably roll in different circles. I definitely feel like the players are probably going to gravitate more to Steven Jackson because, if I was a player, I want to hang and talk to Steven Jackson. I don't want to talk to Jay Williams. Here's what it is. So you definitely probably have factions where I'll talk to Steven Jack or I'll talk to so-and-so. Kevin Durant talks to Bill Simmons for, 3 hours every time they meet and do a podcast. So it is what it is. Put it on blast like that was a little messed up. I agree with you there. But I think it was valid to put out there, listen, not everybody talked to you. And I think I'm glad to get it out there because not everybody's friends. And I know that they put this United Front on we got the band boat crew, blah, blah. It ain't like that in the NBA. You still got the factions. You still got the NWO. You got the NWO Wolfpack. You got the Four Horsemen. You got a lot of stuff going on. But Jay Williams came a little aggressive at the end. I'm just saying, Steven Jackson.
You know what that's about? That's about because he went to Duke. And if for some reason it's something about picking on the Catholic school kids, I don't know how Grant Hill always rise above that, but it's something about Duke. They just don't get the respect, as being quote unquote tough guys.
I mean, they're not.
Wait,
they're not.
I would like to think Bobby Hurley's a tough white boy.
I think Hurley, yes. Sheldon Williams, yes.
Sheldon Williams. Doherty, maybe?
Doherty's North Carolina.
Oh, you're right. Shit. My bad.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think that's it. I think those are the only two tough guys. That's the only two tough. Maybe Johnny Dawkins from '85.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's about it. The rest of them are all soft, including Christian Laettner, who I still hate to this day. Fuck you, Christian Laettner. Anyway, UConn men's basketball coach Dan Hurley hopeful that the compensation law keeps kids in school. So he believes, Dan Hurley, that if kids are able to benefit and profit off their likenesses, they're more likely to stay in school. Do you think that's the case, or do you think that's still not going to be enough to keep these kids in school? And not even for like 4 years, but at least through like their sophomore, junior years.
If I'm not good enough to make the G League and I could go to school, make money off my likeness, and be a folk hero, I'll go to school. That's just how I'm wired. I think a lot of kids are going to be wired in terms of like, get me to the G League, get me to the NBA, or get me overseas. The hell with my likeness. I want to make some money and play ball.
Yeah, I think the conversation that's not being had is how much money are we talking about this NIL thing? Are you talking about a rising scale? Are you talking about scale for everybody? Are you talking about, the bigger schools have more of a pool to choose from? Are we talking it's going to be men and women's sports? Are we talking there's so many questions behind it that I feel like to make a statement like that is kind of premature because we don't have a lot of details about if this happens, even though it's been in the pipeline for 2 years. And I feel like everyone's dragging their feet trying to get a plan on it. I feel like until we figure out what the hell's really going on, you can't say, oh, that kids are staying in school now because they're getting a couple $100 for, autographed basketball. Like, I don't think that's not going to be the case until we figure out how much money these kids are really getting.
But even so, let's look at the NCAA football right now. They want to expand the playoff tournament to 12. Forget the 4. They want not even let's progress to 8. They want to go straight to 12 because they want that money. So they want that March Madness money. So they want to look at all those billions of dollars they're generating, and the kids can't even get a 2% of that. It's insane. So that
was my next question to you because the college football playoff is they might. I think they will. I think they will go on to 12. March Madness is at 68. With this expansion to 12 for football, do you see maybe March Madness saying, let's go from 68 to like 76 or something like that to get a couple more games in, which means maybe a couple more $1 million each game extra that they get? Do you see that maybe happening?
Absolutely. If we can expand the first 2 rounds to another weekend, absolutely. They'll definitely do that.
So with that said, how valid does that student athlete designation really become? Because if you extend March Madness out, you're literally missing class for really a month and a half.
I mean, let's be honest. Are they really going to class?
And what classes are they taking?
Taking?
That's the other part too. I just, you mentioned it. They get billions a year for March Madness. I think I heard something this morning where it was $475 million that ESPN paid for the rights to the CFP, the playoff system. Mm-hmm. If they expand, which would be more games, that's going to jump to at least, that's probably going to be double. We're talking $900 million, maybe $1 billion for the rights to that for a 12-team playoff. And then the other question is, where does this money come from for the players? Who's giving that money up? Would the NCAA give it up? Would the networks give it up? We already know EA said we're going to pay these players, okay, no matter what. The NCAA, because the whole reason there's been no NCAA football or March Madness basketball has been EA's like, we want to pay, but the NCAA keeps kind of saying, no, you can't. Who's paying these players? And I think they need to figure that out too. Is it coming out the schools? Is it coming from TV? Where's it coming from?
Yeah. They'll drag their feet as long as they can on this, but in the meantime, I encourage all those young athletes, think about the G League or think about HBCU. If you're going to get pimped by the system, at least get pimped by a historically black college.
Get pimped by your own people.
Get pimped by your own people.
Your own people. Speaking of, it's funny because I was thinking about this today. It kind of goes with the Bruce Brown thing. And I had a thought in my head that when he got that ball on that inbound, that one shining moment was kind of playing in his head as he was driving. He got that ball. And the ball is tipped. He's like, I got this. He has Luther in his head. I'm like, oh, shit. He's going to take that shot. Because you feel it. You feel it when Luther starts that song. last topic: Seton Hall, Rutgers. They're going to get back to playing each other in basketball next year. They couldn't do it this past year because of COVID. Now, obviously, we're on YouTube, so this is international, national. We're just keeping it local right now. But how important is that Seton Hall Rutgers matchup now that Rutgers is good and Seton Hall, even though they lost, Sandro, he graduated. Seton Hall's still good. How important is that for the Big East and for the, the New York, New Jersey area for basketball?
Oh, it's huge. It's the best. It's the best rivalry going on in the tri-state. Wouldn't you agree? Like, I couldn't think of anyone else I'll be more looking forward to see, as both teams are good. Both schools are on the come up. It's great, especially great for Jersey. Like, you guys definitely need this and deserve.
We don't got a whole lot going on here, college sports. Yeah. I think we got like Montclair State and Ramapo College.
I mean, I'll tribute to Prudential to see that matchup.
Yeah, I think the next game is. I think next year's going to be in Prudential, because I think the one 2 years ago was at the RAC, which I know you've been to the RAC a lot.
Yeah,
you've covered Rutgers a lot. With Rutgers basketball being so good, I mean, do you foresee Rutgers football ever being good again?
Well, judging by the recruits that I saw in Times Square last weekend, I think it's a long way, but I do like how they're selling the New York area to the recruits.
And the Big Ten is as well. That's the reason they're there.
But I feel like they're so far behind the 8 ball, it's going to be almost impossible for them. Maybe I should say impossible. Maybe it's going to take a decade or so, realistically.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the players still aren't staying in New Jersey, and I feel like that's across every school, every conference of a team in Jersey. No one's staying here still. I feel like Shiano's trying to kind of rebuild and go back to what he had before he left, but you're still seeing difficulties keeping guys here. Football and basketball, they're going south. Football, they want to play Alabama, they want to play in Florida, they want to play Ole Miss, Georgia. They don't want to play in New Jersey.
Yeah, I mean, even if they don't want to go down south, you're going to lose in the Penn State. So it's a tough situation in that conference. Had they been another conference, maybe not so much.
Now, listen, I still say to this day the AAC is where Rutgers should be. Football and basketball. For the AAC is the conference where it's like you got Houston, you got Central Florida, you got Tulsa, you got this land of misfit colleges. Mm-hmm. Rutgers belongs there, not in the Big Ten, playing Ohio State and Michigan in football. Basketball, they're keeping up, so I would give them that basketball-wise. But football, it's atrocious. Last 2 minutes of the show, I want to talk a little bit of wrestling. AEW, they have a show tonight. It's on Fridays. Basketball bumped on Friday nights.
Keep forgetting that.
But here's the thing, though. I feel their ratings have been really bad. It's Friday night at 10 o'clock. So it's 10 to 12. By 11:50, I'm like, the main event last week was Dustin Rhodes versus the big dude from the competing training school in a bull rope match. That was the main event. And I feel like AEW is like, yeah, it's midnight. No one gives a shit. So I feel like this is going to really hurt them. But then you look at Raw, and I'm like, I had watched Raw for 3 minutes on Monday.
Oh, wow.
I watched the first 3 minutes at 8 o'clock.
Raw, I have to do YouTube highlights. I can't watch it.
I did 8. I did 8 to 8:03 and never turned back. They've turned me out completely. So with AEW moving nights constantly, they have, I think, this week's Friday, I think next week's Friday, and then the week after that, Saturday. You would think WWE's like, hey, this is our shot. This is our chance. Let's fire 18 people and still put on a shitty show.
I think the E is they're pretty much banking on SummerSlam. And I think SummerSlam, they're going to build it up to be this year's WrestleMania. And I don't know what direction you're going to go for in terms of like matches wise, but which also sucks because SummerSlam's like 2 months away. You still got Money in the Bank and whatever in Hell in a Cell. Mm-hmm. So it's like their long-term booking always sucked, and now it's going to be so vital, especially as people, they're going back on the road. But
hey, let's give Drew McIntyre another title shot. Let's do that. Let's keep this going.
Terrible.
No, let's do that. Your silence and your shaking the head is exactly how I feel every Monday. Fridays, a little better.
Oh, I love Fridays. I love Roman and the family dysfunction. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, but besides, like, I feel like they booked Bianca Belair terribly since she won the belt. I feel like Apollo Crews and Commander Aziz, and I'm like, oh, I'm done. And then you fire Aleister Black when the program started with Big E, so now Big E's kind of just left out there floating. I don't understand the company. Like I said, I don't watch Raw like that. I'll check out SmackDown at the beginning and the end, and that's it. That's all I got. I'm lost. And NWA, don't get me started on that because I got a whole lot to talk about NWA because I actually thought about buying a pay-per-view. And I was like, let me watch the YouTube pre-show.
Ooh.
And it didn't work. There was no pre-show. I'm like, well, there you go. And NWA for you. Jason, great show as always.
Likewise.
So thank you so much for watching. If you're listening on podcast, thank you for listening. We'll be back on Thursday next week. I will be here Thursday. I was crazy working. I fell asleep yesterday. So next Thursday night, 8 p.m., we'll be back here on the Just Hoop Talk YouTube channel. Hopefully, Milwaukee comes back, makes it a series, makes my prediction correct. Jason thinks not. So we'll see you next week. For Jason Corden, I'm Kahlil Thomas. Thank you for listening. We will see you next Thursday.
Fear the deer.